All right, thanks for joining. Really appreciate getting it. Man, I can't believe that. Made another mistake. Well, we all make mistakes. But what I'm about to share with you is the top five biggest 1-2 oohs that I saw from the WWE in 2024. Welcome to 1-2 Ooh. And today we are going to be going over the five biggest 1-2 Oohs for the WWE in 2024. I am 8-Bit Mike, and stick around to the end and get my secret sixth one potentially. So let's see what comes out of that. But we're going to start off with a big one. I think I have to go to this because when you start the year as hot as they did with the Cody Rhodes story, I gotta say, one of the biggest mistakes I think the WWE made was their failure to build up anyone to really challenge Cody throughout his title reign. We needed there to be some sort of danger, something to put Cody in a position where he needs something, like there's a threat, there's anything, a John Cena level threat, someone who can compete with Roman Reigns. Instead, the entire year just really felt like we were going from challenger to challenger, just waiting for The Rock or Roman to come back or someone who's a credible threat to beat him. You had CM Punk for a bit, but he feuded most of the year with Drew McIntyre. There were moments with KO, but I don't think KO was ever really a threat to take the title. And not to say Cody had bad matches, but there were just these times where it's like, yeah, no one here's gonna beat him. Hopefully The Rock comes back. Hopefully we get something. And I just think this was a huge miss. It's important to build up other stars and even in the heel space, specifically, because you need threats, you need challenges. And I just don't think Cody had enough. It led to this almost lackluster title run for Cody, and it's not necessarily I don't want to necessarily say it was all bad. I think we got a lot of good from it, and there was a lot of good stories, but I just wish the threats were more, and I wish there was more there because Cody deserves it. And ultimately, I think it would have done more for him long-term legacy-wise, and I'm happy where we are. I think the John Cena stuff is fantastic, and right now, I think looking into this year, we've set it up to where, okay, I can see, the road for Cody to potentially face a Randy Orton, to face a very dangerous Roman Reigns, or even CM Punk, or now he has John Cena, The Rock. There's a list of folks who I think are actual threats, and as you continue to build guys like Jacob Fatu, they really become that next level of threat for him. So I think they're off to a good start here in 2025, but man, 2024... it's just rough when I look back at it, and I think it was such a huge 1-2 ooh for them. My next one, and it's a common theme that I've seen throughout the Triple H era, but I really think it was a huge miss not letting Chad Gable get that Intercontinental Championship. When I think back to Chad Gable, think back to the feud with Sammy, think back to that triple threat match between Sammy and Bronson Reed and Chad Gable. And man, the work he was putting in was so unbelievable, and he was so over. That storyline with him and the Alpha Academy, I waited for it each week. I was so excited for it. I wanted to see how far he could push them until they snapped and pushed back. And then even worse, so even if we look at that entire story as a whole, one, you never vindicated Chad's turn heel, and you needed that. You really needed Chad to kind of get the belt to say, see, now that I've turned heel, now I get the title. Now that it's all about me, now we're winning gold. And that never really happened. And even worse was the payoff to the real story, where you have Otis and Chad kind of ended up taking this weird back seat, and we never really got the payoff until way later in the year when it's really over. It's done. I just don't think they managed that story to the best of the WWE's ability. And unfortunately for a lot of folks, that was the theme last year. I could even put in here as an honorable mention, Damian Priest, Finn Balor. I thought that was a big miss too. They had so much heat, they had so much going, and they really dropped the ball. And it sucks. It sucks because I thought there was so much there for that little bit of time. But we move forward because I think we got one more here that I don't hear a lot of people mention, but if you look at where we're at right now, this for sure should be on that list. And it has to be the Wyatt Six. I thought the introduction of the Wyatt Six, the presentation of the Wyatt Six, it was all so good. I thought the start of the Wyatt Six was really good. I think where the mistake was they had them target a Chad Gable who had just turned heel. I think that was a really bad decision because the reality is when you look at the group, the Wyatt Six, they're this group of, hey, we're going to come after people who mistreat their family. We're going to come after people who, are not doing right by people they're close to, and we're big on family and stuff. And they beat Chad Gable up. They keep going after him. They start beating up his team and everything, and they're winning these matches against him, and they ultimately win the feud. And when you come out of it, Chad Gable's still the same guy. Nothing changed. And I think what would have been cool with the Wyatt Six is if they could have found maybe some people on the roster who needed a revamp, or potential folks that were heels that they wanted to turn babyface, or either way, right? Or folks they wanted to break up certain groups, things like that. And you could have had the Wyatt Six go after them. And I would have spent even as time went on more, I thought the vignettes and the tapes they were doing were really cool. I would have spent more time in that space really fleshing out all the other characters, because once they started doing too much of the in-ring stuff, it started to take away from the group for me. And then they got into this whole Final Testament feud that it didn't make any sense. And I was wondering, what are we doing here? I don't really understand this. And then they lost the feud and now they're gone. It just feels like something was there that could have been really special and really big, and we've essentially dropped the ball. And now I'm just beyond nervous that they're going to pull Alexa Bliss into this. I don't know if just putting Alexa Bliss in it saves it. I think there has to be something new there, and it has to be big, and I'm sure they're working on something, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like this was such a huge miss, and it hurts. It hurts my heart to say that because I loved the Wyatt Six. If you know anything about me, Bray Wyatt and The Fiend, Alexa Bliss were a big part of why I came back and started watching wrestling as much as I've been watching wrestling, and they were a big part of what pulled me back in. So, yeah, I think that's another one of our 1-2 oohs. We're going to move to our fourth one. And again, this one I'm going to have to flesh out and explain a bit, but not putting the titles on the New Day when they turned on Big E. I know this happened late in the year, but the Raw tag team division has just been garbage. I didn't think it's really been that great. At that time, you just come off this Judgment Day title hold that lasted forever and were never defended, and then you give it to the War Raiders, and now you have this great thing going with a New Day. New Day's hotter than ever. They're being booed out of the building every place they go. Their own parents, their own families booing them out. It's I thought this was another situation where it's you have to vindicate the move for them so that it makes sense. They're walking around in the back trying to get everyone to vindicate what they did, and nobody would do it. The one thing that could have vindicated it and allowed them to kind of have a point with the fans is say, hey, we turned on Big E. We started focusing on ourselves, and look, now we're the tag champs. You guys just don't get it. This paid off. This was the right decision, and here's why, right? And they didn't do that, and now it's kind of you started a feud with the LWO, and I'm okay, I thought that was going to lead to the tag title shot and they'd put the belts on them. I think there's still time for this one. I mean, put the titles on them. Let's do something with these Raw titles. Let's put them on a New Day. Let's have the New Day come out and talk about how great they are and throw it in everyone's face. That's what I want to see. I think it'll be hilarious. All right. And my very final one for the WWE in 2024, and honestly, you could probably take this for more than just 2024, Money in the Bank. I love this concept, but the execution this year, I don't understand. If you look at the Drew McIntyre CM Punk story, could we have still gotten to the end of that story without sacrificing the Money in the Bank? Would it have still been just as big, just as much heat? I think so. I don't think you needed to sacrifice the Money in the Bank because Drew had already been screwed. He'd already been screwed out of the title because of CM Punk. Yeah, did it add a little bit? Oh my gosh, he screwed him again. It did, but it was just so much more disappointing that we didn't take the opportunity to take advantage of some other things this year. Why not put that Money in the Bank on someone else, right? And it didn't even have to be someone that was going to have a successful cash-in. I would have loved to have seen someone cash in on the Night of Champions, on champion versus champion. You have a very rare situation where you have the two world champions in the ring together, and nobody has a Money in the Bank briefcase to take advantage of this very rare opportunity. And I thought that could have been a situation where you could have somebody who, even if they were going to fail, you could have protected Gunther and Cody in this situation where someone comes and cashes in with Money in the Bank. And maybe they fail, Cody pins them, or Gunther pins them, and Gunther gets out of there with the win. Or if you want Cody to win, Crown Jewel, then you have Cody do the pin, and you now protect both your champions, and you have this cool moment where someone tries to cash in a really strange situation where both titles are available. That would have been really cool. I thought that could have been something different. It could have been, and it also could have been great for someone who maybe isn't already super over. Even for like a Jey Uso would have been interesting, right? Like that could have just been another part of Jay's story of, hey, you won Money in the Bank and you failed. You always fail, Jay. You always fail. And then you look at the women's side, and though I will say the payoff on the women's side was so good, it was so good, the road to it was terrible. And like, it just, for me, like Tiffany lost a lot of, I just couldn't believe how like ridiculous she was. Like every opportunity that was just right there in your face, she could not cash in. She couldn't figure it out. She couldn't make a decision. She didn't know what she wanted to do. She just didn't know. And then you have this really insane opportunity for her, which for me even more made me like lose a lot of respect for her character in the way of like, you're in War Games. And essentially, Raquel is handcuffed to the ring. Liv was just put through the riptide through a table. And you don't cash in? Why? So I hope we do it differently this year. I don't mind a like fake out on the cash in. I don't mind the like false cash ins to a limit. But when it was happening with like Tiff, like almost every week and every single event, her music would hit and you're like, all right, she's not going to cash in. She's not going to cash in. And of course, when she finally did, it was a huge payoff. And I loved it. I love the way they did it. I thought it was so fantastic, her cash in night, but God, the road to it was just so painful. And I just feel like we could have done it differently, for sure. Now, I did promise you a sixth 1-2 ooh. And for me, this is a really big one. Not putting the belt on Dirty Dom. We all know Dirty Dom's the best. We all know Dirty Dom deserves a title. The fact that this man hasn't had multiple title reigns by now, held it for longer than Roman Reigns, blows my mind. He should have beat Gunther. I don't understand why this didn't happen, and I'm never going to. That's it for me. I'm 8-Bit Mike.